Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at allchgo.com. Diehards, you have a new White Sox weekly mailbag where, Vinnie, did you read about the 20-game losing streak? Oh, okay. All right. If you didn't know, the White Sox have lost 20 straight games. Herb Lawrence is our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at EcknerLaw23. We're being produced today by Greg Braggs. All right. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. And we are excited to be sharing our graphic after each and every loss that Lawrence Benedetto made of Pedro Grifol's L trying to wrap around in a circle. We are getting very close from the name touching. A lot of people giving their opinions on what should happen to the circle and how it's going to touch and overlap. Don't worry. We do have an idea. We have tried to figure it out. Lawrence is working on it today, so don't worry. We got you covered. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the White Sox, who, again, have struggled. They are the worst team in baseball, 60 games under 500. They have a 20-game ongoing losing streak. We'll talk about their all-time record as they are 2 losses away from being 500 all-time. And we got some stuff as Kai Busch makes his debut as the White Sox tried to avoid 21 losses in a row. We did see today's lineup. We'll talk a little bit about Miguel Vargas, too, making his White Sox debut at third base.
Vargas! That's a Seinfeld reference. That's a Seinfeld deep cut for all you guys out there.
Vargas.
The Bizarro Jerry. Go home. Do some homework.
Bizarro Jerry. Season 8. That's the thing. I got to like season 7. I watched 6 seasons of it. Got to like the middle of season 7, and there was just something. I got the ick, and I just stopped.
You got to power through. If you're gonna get that Vargas reference.
The one thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into all of this is who's been the White Sox best hitter. I saw an amusing tweet earlier today. I don't know if amusing's the right word, but Nick Schaefer tweeted out the White Sox players. The White Sox currently do not have a player that qualifies for the plate appearance restriction that is over 100 OPS plus.
I thought you were just going to stop there.
Tommy Pham would be the only person that qualifies, but he's not on the team. He had a 102 OPS plus with the White Sox. Now that Robert is under 100, there is not a single White Sox player with an OPS plus over 100.
That's how you get to 60 games below 500, folks.
That's just sad. Like, nobody in the whole entire lineup, and I know Yohan's been gone for the most of the year, but people got to step up. There's opportunities to be had, and nobody. You usually go with a thing where, like, yeah, that guy had great stats on that bad team because he was the only one on that team. But you can't even say that. Everybody on the team is just historically bad, and that is piss poor. I thought that Marcus Timms would say some things or maybe change some things from what the old regime had. No, I would gladly take the singles back. Give me the singles. Please, Jesus. Do something else than striking out and getting out all the time.
Also, I screwed up. Matt Verplace correcting me. Vargas did play the first 2 games in Minnesota at third base. Very odd, though, that they said he's most comfortable at second base. Have fun playing third and left field.
Well, I don't know if it was made into a hierarchy necessarily. Yeah. It was more of a description of a list of all of the positions that he feels comfortable at. Trust me, folks, I think you're going to see plenty of positions for Miguel Vargas. I don't know if any of them are going to stick necessarily as one over the other, but I would have to imagine that that's going to be the MO for the rest of the season, is to get him time at as many positions as he's capable of playing.
I'm happy to see Brooks Baldwin at shortstop. I'll just keep it at that. But yeah, this season obviously has not been going well for the Chicago White Sox. Tommy Pham again at and this is set off at minimum playing time of 100 plate appearances, 297 plate appearances for Pham, a 102 weighted runs created plus. But Robert, 96 weighted runs created plus. DeYoung, who has been traded off the team, is at 95. Andrew Vaughn at 90. Corey Julks at 88. Gavin Sheets, who I think who hasn't homered in 2 months, at 82 weighted runs created plus. Eloy Jimenez, who's now 5 for 9 as an Oriole. His weighted runs created plus was 80. Nicky Lopez, local product, 72 weighted runs created plus. Corey Lee, 67 weighted runs created plus. Lenine, who's playing second base tonight, 65 weighted runs created plus. Andrew Benintendi, the $75 million man, 63 weighted runs created plus. Danny Mendick, 56 weighted runs created plus. And Martin Maldonado, who's no longer with us, he's alive, but no longer a White Sox, 11 weighted runs created plus. Oof. So I ask you guys, in this dearth of an offense that we have seen, who's been the best hitter?
I mean, I think by default it has to be Luis Robert Jr., if we're not counting the people who are no longer playing on the team. But again, that should really say something that a guy who was in the MVP conversation last year is down to a below average major league hitter right now. He's obviously on a quite the slump at the moment. He's had his moments throughout the year. He's had his stretches where he has looked like that guy again. But man, it's a tough situation to be in when he might be a guy that, whether at the trade deadline or moving forward into the offseason, Chris Getz was or will be trying to trade, and you're going to have to convince people to cough up a king's ransom for a guy who didn't even post a league average stat line this year. He's had a really tough go of it, a lot of strikeouts. We were saying earlier in the year, if you remember correctly, that he was walking a lot more. I don't know if that's necessarily stayed consistent, but the strikeouts are definitely there, and he is having a tough go of things right now. He is someone who really needs to have a strong finish to the season if the White Sox are going to do with him what a lot of people think they're going to try to do, and try to bring in a bunch of minor league talent for a guy who, when healthy and when producing, is one of the best players in the game, but certainly he hasn't looked like that this year.
If you're going with Luis Robert Jr., I'll reluctantly take Andrew Vaughn. While he started off piss poor, I think his first couple months were really bad. He had a hot June where he was starting to strike the ball with authority, and his July wasn't as good, and it looks like his August is starting off like his June. So is he a 90 weighted runs created plus hitter? I don't think so. Like, in his career, he's been at average or a little slightly above average in his career. If you're talking about today, who would I trust in a spot where the White Sox need a hit? I would say Andrew Vaughn, because I think he is kind of peaking right now, if not just plateauing. I think Luis Robert Jr. and Gavin Sheets are just going for the ground.
This is a painful conversation. The Giggity throws up, Baldwin had 3 hits yesterday. It's him by default. As a joke, I was going to say Brooks Baldwin, but then I went and looked at his weighted runs created plus, thinking that his hot streak, I think we mentioned 9 games, he's had a pretty good go at it. 66 weighted runs created plus. That's Andrew Benintendi territory. And then I was like, all right, well, let's just look, because you talked about drawing walks, right? Let's just look. 50 plate appearances. Who has had the highest walk rate as a Chicago White Sox?
Highest walk rate?
Yeah.
Minimum 50 plate appearances.
Walk percentage.
This year.
As a White Sox.
Currently on the team, or everybody that's played
Everyone
this year?
that's played. So that probably gives you a little bit of a hint.
I'll go with Tommy Pham.
No, Tommy Pham didn't walk. Tommy Pham, 8.4, which was 5th on the White Sox, which is a little bit lower than Luis Robert Jr., who also doesn't notably walk.
I will go ahead and say Eloy Jimenez.
No, not Eloy Jimenez. Eloy Jimenez below Dominic Fletcher at 7.2%.
So then it's Paul DeYoung.
No, not Paul DeYoung.
Jesus
Paul DeYoung
Christ.
didn't walk. Paul DeYoung had one of the worst walk rates.
He didn't walk at all. Yeah.
Only Braden Shoemake was worse. Braden Shoemake's 1.5% walk rate. Paul DeYoung sat at 3.9 along with Lenine Sosa.
Who else isn't on the team that walked a lot and had at least 50 at-bats? I don't know if Yohan had enough.
Not Maldonado. Maldonado, no, 5.4. The funny thing about Yohan Moncada, who has like 0.9 WAR, doesn't even have 50 plate appearances.
It's all defense.
All defense, and literally he played 9 games. Like, the fact that he is still a top 10 player for the White Sox is the saddest stat. We can throw out 60 games under 500. They've been swept in 3 straight series, 2 14-game
They've been
losing
swept in
streaks.
6 straight series.
6 straight series. I mean, like, I think we've stopped counting shutouts for them. Like, the saddest stat is that Yoan Moncada, and I kind of hope he doesn't play again at this point, not for his sake, but just because it would be hilarious if he's still a top 10 White Sox player in 2024 after only playing 9 games.
I mean, who's coming to get him?
I don't know.
Brooks Baldwin, maybe. That'll be it.
I don't know.
And maybe today's starter.
Robbie Grossman was the answer.
Wow.
Yeah, Robbie Grossman with a 15
we wouldn't have gotten that had you given us 30 more guesses.
I forgot about Robbie Grossman.
15.3 walk rate. He's the only White Sox player with 50 plate appearances with a 10-plus walk rate. So Miguel Vargas's 10-plus walk rate for his career looks very tantalizing. People in the White Sox front office are probably drooling over that.
So they don't walk. History! They don't hit home runs.
No.
They don't steal bases.
No.
Like, what do they do? What do you say do you do around here?
They lose.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
They lose. I mean, I don't know.
They blow saves.
They do that well. Yeah. Better than they win.
That was the stat I saw today. And again, it was one that I knew, but it was not really hammered home until I saw it on Twitter today. They have more blown saves than wins.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
28 to 27.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have said that blown saves number was at like 40. I didn't know that actual number.
Yeah.
That's
they lead the league, and I think the Dodgers are second with like 20.
Hey, good company.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got to be in it with them. I think, have they any like, what are they when they have the lead, like after the 7th inning? I would love to know that record.
You can find that. That's on there.
How many times have they truly won a game?
That's on Baseball Reference or something.
Oh, I'm on a different page. Right now, I'm on team run differential. Surprisingly, over these past 20 games, the Chicago White Sox don't have the worst run differential over a team's 20-game stretch. The worst 20-game stretch from a team was the Baltimore Orioles in 2021. The span started, August 3rd of 2021, ended August 25th. They had a negative 104 team run differential. That is the worst over 20 games. They were 1-19 in that stretch, but they scored 65 runs. The White Sox at a negative 83 run differential. They've only scored 48 runs in that time, which is absolutely brutal. Been outscored 131 to 48 on this past 20-game losing streak. So, I mean, that's pretty much the biggest thing. I mean, the pitching hasn't been good. You bring up the blown saves number. The bullpen's been pretty rocky.
The starting pitching's been okay.
Starting pitching's been okay. I mean, Chris Flexen's given you some starts where, you know, he's in it. Hasn't won any, but he's been in it. Same with Fetty and Crochet. But
Thorpe and Cannon have had a handful of good ones apiece, too.
This might be the worst offense ever.
Yeah, I mean,
punctuate that.
What were we talking about all offseason long, right? We were talking about how's this team going to score runs because the quote-unquote improvements that were made by Chris Getz in the offseason were made with an eye on defense, with an eye on things that weren't necessarily offensive production, right? They were trying to get a team that would not make mistakes, that would come in and be able to hit and run and bunt and do all these things that would, you know, make them aggressive and fast and all of this kind of stuff. But nowhere were they like, oh, that guy is an offensive improvement. That guy makes the lineup better. And so the focus on defense seemed to even come at the expense of improving the offense. It was, again, riding on a bunch of the guys who had yet to live up to expectations, the Aloys and Moncadas and Andrew Vaughns of the world, right? Even you can even squeeze that down to Benintendi if you just want to talk about him during his White Sox career. And the idea was, well, bringing in a couple new hitting coaches, maybe these guys will click. Well, Yoan Moncada hasn't played. Eloy Jimenez still can't hit the ball in the air, or couldn't before he was traded. And Vaughn and Benintendi, you read off the numbers there. Then you throw in the injury plus the underproduction of Robert. Nothing has really clicked for the offense at all. The guys that they were hoping something would click for them. And then the other half of the lineup wasn't supposed to click in the first place. So that's how you get what you might be describing as one of the worst offenses that we've seen in a very long time for this White Sox team.
I tried to look up the least amount of runs scored in a season. The best I can do is 1908 Washington team, but they scored 380, which the White Sox are around there right now. So
Well,
they won't surpass the Washington, I think at the time, Senators.
But yeah, and there's also a cutoff because that was just the dead ball era, so that's probably tough to judge them against one of those teams. We'll update you on some of those numbers, but we'll take a break. We want to let you know about our friends over at Circa Sportsbooks. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sportsbooks which may use a -115 or -120 split. This is because Circa keeps as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments, especially compared to other books, and they have high app limits and great transparency. Circa does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players, and they encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available in your state, and you can compare the lines from each sports book to make sure that you are getting the best price when you wager. And the best part about the world's largest sportsbook, Circa Sportsbook, is that most of, if not all the time, you will find the best line with Circa Sportsbook, and their Circa customer service is unbeatable. There are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. That's circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Text GMB to 833-234. Visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering world-class products rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. As you see on Vinny's face, they look beautiful. Their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so if you're bound to find one that has the perfect pair to match your style, they probably have a style in your favorite team's colors. I wear Shady Rays while I'm riding my bike because of the clarity and the optical clarity, which is vital when you're walking and biking on these Chicago streets. You need to see everything that's going on, and those Shady Rays keep me safe on the Chicago streets. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit like Sean had, you don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by their lost and broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast service. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head on over to shadyrays.com and use the promo code CHGO for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Thank you, Herb Lawrence. And overall, too, another thing that we're watching, not only will the White Sox possibly be the worst team ever, that record, 120 losses by the 1961 Mets. I want to say 62 every time I do this. 1961 Mets, 120 losses.
That is because it is 1962.
Is it?
Yeah, 61 is the Phillies team with the longest losing streak. I'm getting my early 60s mixed up.
Got you. Okay, yeah. So there you go, folks. But to that point, not only longest losing streak by the 61 Phillies, not only most wins by the 1962 Mets, but also we are tracking the all-time White Sox record. All-time, the White Sox are 9,580. That's how many wins they have. And they have 9,578 losses. So they are currently 2 games above 500. Since it's so many games, it's technically like 500. 0.0000009.
If you were to cut it off after 3 decimal places, it's 500. But
but 9,580. If they lose 2 more games, 2 more consecutive games, they will be at 500 overall. To put this in perspective, only major league teams, AL or NL, since 1901, the White Sox have the 11th best win-loss record. Yankees are 1 at 570.
The winning percentage.
Yankees 570, 57% win percentage. Giants 53.4, Dodgers 53.1, St. Louis 52.2, Boston 51.8, Cleveland 51.3, Pittsburgh 50.4, Cubs 50.4, Detroit 50.2, Houston 50.2, Chicago 50, and that is 11th all time. The Toronto Blue Jays 0.498. The worst team ever.
Ooh. Do I get to guess?
Still alive?
Guess?
Still here?
Yeah, active. I mean, the worst team ever is 1901. It is the Baltimore Orioles, but it's a different team, I guess. So there was a Baltimore Orioles before the Baltimore Orioles. So,
yes.
But out of the 30 major league teams,
the worst winning percentage ever.
Ever.
And considering we saw a lot of we talked yesterday as you were doing some research on the teams that have the longest losing streaks. The Philadelphia Phillies were well represented in terms of losing. I don't know if they would be on there.
Phillies are the worst team that have been around. So since 1901, them and the Orioles are the worst team ever. Phillies 46.8, Baltimore 47.5.
I'm going to guess the Montreal Expos / Washington Nationals.
No, that team is 20th, 48.3.
I will guess then the Colorado Rockies.
The Colorado Rockies are close, Vinny.
Ooh.
We really appreciate that guess. 2,301 wins, 2,670 losses. The team that was introduced with them, the Miami Marlins, are the worst team ever.
A team that has won 2 World Series, and they're the worst team ever.
In our lifetime.
2,283 wins, 2,679 losses for the Fish.
I don't think they've ever won an NL East. Like, they've only those 2 times they got in.
Card?
They were wild card teams.
Yeah.
Those 2 teams.
2 pennants, 4 playoff appearances.
Yeah, because those were until the COVID season, the only time that they had made the playoffs, they won the World Series both times.
Yep.
And then they made it in the COVID season, and they made it last year.
Mm-hmm.
So what? They've been around since 1993. They've been second in the NL East 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And have never won.
Oh boy!
So they have since 1993 5 times either in first or second place.
I don't know if I would like that. The boom or bust of that fandom. Like, you're either the World Series champions twice in your lifetime or not good at all.
No, and 2, like that. I mean, I know a lot of people want ownership change, and that's part of Jerry Reinsdorf's like allure, I guess, in a way, as he's been around for so long, and he could probably be around for like much longer, like 12 more years when he's 100. But I don't think I'd want the Marlins situation where like Wayne Huizinga's selling them, and then who's the guy that David Sampson
and his dad.
Yeah, right. I mean, like there was so much like Michael Scott snip snap snip snap snip snap. I don't think anyone can handle it. I mean, since 1993, since the Marlins existed, I think they've had 4 owners. Since 1981, so White Sox have had 1 owner.
And as we were talking about before the show, because you were talking, we were going over some Burley history, and so we were talking about some of the moves that the Marlins made in that time period. No matter who the owner has been, they always kind of do the same thing, right? And just the roster is just constantly getting purged all the time. They just did it again at the trade deadline this year, and they weren't even good this time around, right? True. They didn't even have to do that to shed salary like they did after both times that they won the World Series. So that would be a tough team to be a fan of, because it's like being a fan of a college team, right? Nobody's sticking around. There's nobody to become attached to. They fly out of town right away.
Can I ask you guys this?
This is Greg Braggs, by the way.
Bagman here. Thank you very much. Can I ask you guys this? Because I've seen some Sox fans talking about this both ways in terms of the streak. Do you, as Sox fans, want to see them break the record to like stick it to ownership of the like just really sell home the embarrassment of this, or are you rooting for them to not like win a game here before it gets to that point?
I am rooting for. I don't care about Jerry getting embarrassed. I don't think an 88-year-old man gets embarrassed. He's rich. He doesn't care. He jumps into his pool of money. But I want them to be the best at losing. So, yes, I want them to set the record for most consecutive losses, and I want them to set the record for most losses in a modern-day season. So, yeah, I'm rooting for those things just so it can be on their resume, and also I can talk about it for years to come.
Very petty of you, Herb Lawrence.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I don't really want that, Greg. I think in a way it's kind of like a badge of honor. And I don't know. Well, maybe I guess I would want it if they lost like 30 straight games. Like that's what I probably want. Like not only like make the record, but like set the record and make that like untouchable. I think that would probably embarrass Jerry, but like they lose just 24 straight and then that's it. Like I don't know if it's going to be that next level of embarrassment. I don't think White Sox fans though deserve it. I think that's what I told you. I think that would be too nice of a payoff. I think it would be too much of an emphasis, too much of an exclamation. We set the record as the worst team, especially if they're going to lose 120 plus games. If they set that record as well, I think that's probably more of a cherry on top. But I don't know. I don't. We don't get good things as Sox fans outside of 2005, so I feel like that'd be too nice.
Well, Alejandro in the chat, says, as a Sox fan, I cannot root for the Cubs to win. If the record was against anyone else, yeah. And that's the point. And I'm sure you guys may have brought this up on the show or not, but like we are kind of heading to a collision course on Friday. Yeah. If they are to continue this streak, they would have a chance to break the record on Friday. But the Cubs would have to be the team to beat them. Yeah. So, like, I think that if it happens, and we'll see here through these next 3 games against the A's, but it does set up an interesting stage on Friday where the Sox fans would never want to have the Cubs beat them for the record.
Correct.
And Cubs fans would never want the Sox to win that game to stop the record against the Cubs. Cubs fans are going through it this year too.
Yeah, I don't care too much about that. I think the White Sox have lost 4 straight games against the Cubs. Like, it's not like they're in good shakes. I mean, the White Sox lose to every single baseball team. That's the whole point. They've lost 24 straight games, and if they get swept by the A's, I think that's probably more embarrassing than losing 1 game to the Cubs out of 24.
I'll say this, Greg, more power to you, man, but that sounded like a real sorry attempt at trying to make Crosstown interesting.
Well, yeah, it is full meatball mode. There's no question. This is the meatball segment of the show, but we all understand for a lot of fans, Cubs Sox, even when the teams are bad, is like the biggest game for a lot of fans because of the family
stadium
rivalries.
Will be full.
And now you have this underlying story that could be attached to it on Friday. I do think it does set up for an intriguing scene there at Comiskey, as I still call it.
Go look at the way that first Crosstown episode we ever did. I mean, Cody was literally mute for the first 20 minutes because the White Sox won. Like, I understand that some people really take Crosstown way too seriously.
Especially the people that go to the games. Especially the people that go to the games.
Hey, maybe we should plug going to the game on August 9th when the White Sox will be taking on the Cubs because we have a CHGO takeover. I think there are 8 tickets still left.
Now, this was a good job by Braggs.
Oh, yeah, this was
Look at
that. Go check out our takeover event. You can come hang out with us at Turtles before the game. You can come see some crosstown action, see the White Sox possibly set that infamous streak. And the best part, too, even if that's not coming on, even if it's not just a crosstown classic game, you get fireworks after the game. So, hey, come out for fireworks. We got a great deal, and it should be a fun time hanging out there. allchgo.com/events.
And this, too, Braggs, like 10 years from now, when there's some documentarian that's looking around to tell the story of the 2024 White Sox.
Ken Burns.
Exactly. They're going to go and talk to Vinnie, who's been at those games, was covering those people every day. They're going to be like, hey, how was it? And then they get to talk to Ken Burns, and that goes into history forever. They're not going to talk to Vinnie if they are the 2nd worst, the 5th worst team in baseball history. No one cares about that. But if they're the worst, this is a season to remember for everybody. And then they're going to be talking to people, and it's like, what do you remember about that year? I remember that Robbie Grossman had a 15% walk rate. I didn't.
I'll remember the 70 players they brought into spring training.
And then when we do our damn thing where we're talking about every player that has played for the 2024 White Sox, I'll only remember like 10 of them.
I think you'll do better than that. But I think that to that point, too, like if the White Sox just lose 24 straight games, I mean, not a lot of people remember the 1961 Phillies, but I think people remember the 1962 Mets more because of the overall totality of sucking.
And certainly you would have to talk to people who were alive in the early 60s.
True. Well, Ken Burns was who I thought of. Who I assume was still alive in the 60s.
If I get to meet Ken Burns, do I get like the country music one free on DVD?
Yeah.
I can just watch it whenever I want.
Baseball, the Civil War, jazz.
Brings out samples. Like you just see brings out like one of those like binders, those trapper keepers.
CD wallet.
Just full out of it and just be like, which one do you want? Complimentary.
It's like I have nothing to play this on, but whatever, I'll keep it.
When my future child gets a PlayStation 9, I will definitely play this on it.
Isn't the whole point of PBS it's free? Do you even have to buy the DVD of it?
They get funded by people like you, Sean.
Yeah, but you have to you get a free tote bag for that.
Yes, you
but no, you have to like pay. I think you have to pay for the streaming version of PBS. I think.
Oh.
Like if you like PBS has its own streaming library or whatever. I think you have to pay for that.
I do want to throw this out there. Least amount of runs scored in 20 games. The White Sox have scored 48 over their past 20. However, this isn't even the worst stretch of the 2024 White Sox season.
Wow.
The Montreal Expos from the 7th of April to the 27th of April, scored 33 runs, and they struggled just in that time frame from the 10th to the 7th, scoring runs. They have the fifth
of
worst.
What year?
2004. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So 33 runs was their worst spot of that 20 games. The White Sox, 7th all-time since 1995, lowest run scored, but that stretch was set earlier this year in March 31st to April 22nd, 39 runs scored. They were 3-17. And then this isn't even the worst part of this 20-game stretch. The White Sox are 1-19, or were 1-19 from July 10th, the first game of that doubleheader, to August 3rd. And that they only scored 44 runs. So if you're not including the game yesterday where they scored 7 and drove the number up to 48 instead of 44, that is the worst 2 stretches of the White Sox history when it comes to scoring runs. All right, let's take a break, and we'll rejoin this discussion. But Vinny will let you know about beer.
Boy, will I, Sean. It's summer in Chicago, and for some reason it's cloudy, but usually it's not. It's a bright, sunshiny day most of the time, and there's nothing that goes better with a bright, sunshiny Chicago summer day than a summer shandy made by the fine folks at Leinenkugel. That flavor combination of lemonade and beer is just so delicious and perfect for any summertime activity you might be doing, whether you're heading over by the lake to have a picnic or you're heading down to the rate to have a tailgate. You got to take a case of summer shandy with you because there's nothing better that goes along with it. That being said, some of you folks might want a little variety in your life. It's the spice of life, so they say. Well, Liney says he covered there, too. Herb's always enjoying a lakeside cherry. Sometimes he's enjoying a juicy peach. Yesterday he was enjoying a grapefruit shandy. Threw me for a loop there, Herb. Mm-hmm. They've also got the berry vice. They've got the honey vice. They've got every flavor under the sun that you could possibly imagine, and they're all fantastic. So, folks, flavor life's simple moments with Leinenkugels, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Liney.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO. Or pick up Leinenkugels pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugels, flavor the moment, celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls. Yes!
Get fitted out in the best sports gear around. Hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, overalls, and everything in between. Going to the baseball game or football game this year? Show off your love with a team-branded friendship bracelet. Whether it's jackets, beachwear, or even overalls, there's something for fans for almost every occasion. And set decorations, if you look right behind me, just on my shoulder, you see my guy, Southpaw, right there. He's one of our set decorations. They're brought to you by FOCO. Thank you. They've donated a few pieces for our sets, so go show them some love. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO10, the number 10, for 10% off.
Thank you, Herb Lawrence. I was looking up some stats. Kevin just asked, have you compared the 2017 and 2018 teams to this year's teams? And we can just take you through that. Again, the longest losing streak for the 2017 White Sox, 9 games. The longest losing streak for the 2018 White Sox, 8 games.
Child's play.
The longest losing streak for the 2024 White Sox,
20
and counting. And to the point of blown leads, I did find that on Baseball Reference. The 2017 White Sox blew 45 leads. The 2018
That's just at any point in the game or a specific
includes
part of the
games
game?
Eventually lost after having the
okay,
lead.
so they could have gone up 1-0 in the first inning and then lost 10-1.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So the 2017 White Sox 45 blown leads. The 2018 White Sox 43 blown leads. 2024 White Sox
54.
42. So
we're better.
Well,
but the season's not on.
They've pretty much tied them.
Right.
114 games into the year. The White Sox are 41 and a half games behind right now. Again, the season isn't over. It's August 5th. The 2017 White Sox furthest behind was 35 games after the season was over, and in 2018, 38. So child's play compared to what the 2024 White Sox are doing. I will say this, those 2 years, the offensive environments of Major League Baseball are definitely different. So maybe that's part of it. If they're playing with a juice baseball where the Minnesota Twins are hitting 300 home runs in a season, maybe the White Sox will see a little bit more success. They are truly struggling just to score runs. I think they're the only team with a negative offensive output when you look at Fangraphs as a team. Every other team is either like above 0, like they're like -4 as an offensive output. So it is truly impressive how bad they have been offensively to drive home the point that we were trying to talk about earlier. It might be Luis Robert Jr., their best hitter on this team, because he's improved his walk rate. But outside of that, he looks like rookie of the year, rookie year, Luis Robert Jr., which is probably the worst version of him. So, like, even the best hitter is likely the worst version of him so far, even though there's some improvements.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you bring up the comparisons to those teams because, you know, my line for when people have asked me how this season is going as well, it's old hat for me. This will be my third 100-loss team that I've covered already. But think about this: that 2018 team, that was the first year I covered the team full time, lost 100 games, right on the button, 100 games. And this team's on pace to win or to lose more than 120 games right now. Think about this for the difference. Think of just the jump in losing from 2022 to last year.
Yeah.
Right? That team was 81-81,
Yep.
and then last year they lost 101 games. How much worse the White Sox were last year than they were the year before is how much worse the White Sox are this year compared to last year.
Ooh, I never thought about that, and that's very, very depressing. That's worse than I ever thought. So we're going to be 41 games at least behind the 81-81 team that I hated.
That was the most disappointing team in anybody's experience.
Oh, that team. Ugh. We had hope at the end of the year, and I was listening today to some of the Locked On A's to get some intel on them, but they're talking about like just it's time to feast, it's time to eat. And I was like, God, the A's are out here just dunking on us. How far have we dropped as a franchise that the Oakland A's, who are moving from Oakland to Sacramento, then to Vegas, they're out here, man. Those White Sox are coming. Let's eat. No. They're 20 games ahead of the White Sox. The goddamn Oakland Athletics are better, 20 games better than the White Sox. That's how worse the White Sox are than the worst team in baseball last year, the Oakland Athletics.
It's fun. It's nothing but fun. I mean, I don't know how to really put it into words how fun it is to watch this White Sox baseball team. We are
history.
Thank you,
but it's
Greg
fun to listen and watch us, right?
It is. But I mean, at this point, like, are you watching because it's fun, or are you watching because it's like, I mean, you can't look away from car crashes.
I mean, you're right. The last 10 games,
this is a car crash.
Right. The last 10 games, you're not paying attention. Now that they're creeping up on the record, the viewership's going to go up. I'm interested to see how far this is going to go now.
Well, and what
one's watching the A's White Sox game. I don't care how much
like at the 12-game losing streak, Lawrence with his great graphic here that he made for the streak, you guys didn't have the graphic yet. But then once it got to 17, 18, 19, you start to really think about it and take a step back. You're like, and you start to pass some of the records you guys have talked about in terms of skids. Shouldn't even call it a streak. It's a skid. It's like, yeah, I am locked in to White Sox baseball at 10 o'clock at night tonight for the next 3 nights to see if this is going to make it all the way to the weekend.
Thankfully, it's just 2 nights. Tomorrow and today are the late night games, and we will have a post-game show on Wednesday. So if they do tie the 1961 Phillies record, we will have a post-game show with you guys. I have tried to like put into words if this is the lowest White Sox fans have felt. You brought up the 80-81 team as feeling fairly low, even though there was a little bit of hope at the end, right?
No,
was I wrong on that?
I'm not that old. I don't know.
Okay. He said the 81 and 81 team of 2 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
That makes it makes a difference. I brought up the 98 and 99 teams that struggled to draw attendance. They were at 16,000 per game. The White Sox right now this year at 16,000 per game. I don't know if you remember that doldrum, but like, is it clearly the worst it's ever been? Could you make an argument for 97, 98 because of the harsh vibes after the strike? Is it 2016 and 2017?
I mean, if you think about all that encompasses the 97 white flag trade, where the White Sox were 3.5 games behind the Cleveland Indians at the time, and Jerry Reinsdorf traded away all their good players. I think Roberto Hernandez, Danny Darwin, et cetera, got back some kids, including Keith Folk, Bob Howry, and Mike Caruso. And so he said, if you guys thought we were going to ever chase and catch the Cleveland Indians, you guys are out of your minds. It was only 3.5 games back, and I think it was July he did that, so 2 months left to go. And then those subsequent years after that white flag trade of 98 and 99, it was really bad. People were pissed at Jerry Reinsdorf because we were just coming off of the strike in 94, 95, where most White Sox fans and most baseball fans blame Jerry Reinsdorf. Then out of that, he signs Albert Bell. Albert Bell has 2 good years for the White Sox. They don't do anything. He leaves immediately because he has a clause in his contract to leave. And then the White Sox are just in the AL Central. And then there was like really no hope in 98 and 99. And then 2000, they just struck gold. Like they got Konerko in 99, and then everything just started rolling in 2000. So at least then you had a glimmer of hope in the back, because the 2000 slogan was "the kids can play," and they did. They played very well and they pitched very well. There's no glimmer of hope in the future. There's no Paul Konerko in the wings for this team. I'm sad. It's a very sad time where you don't have a superstar, and you might be talking about George Wilco, and Edgar Carroll's hitting home runs down there in AAA right now. Is third, I think 18th overall this year. I don't think any White Sox fans thinking Edgar Carroll's going to come up here and do Paul Konerko things. And there's no Michael Soroka. God, I got to say his name right because I've been conditioned to this guy. There's no Mike Soroka. There's no James Baldwin, not the writer, the pitcher. And there's no Jim Parquet on the horizon for this next White Sox team. So this is definitely the worst time to be a White Sox fan of all time.
I think Noah Schultz is definitely thought of as a better prospect than Jim Parquet. And
Butter.
Who would you throw out there? James Baldwin?
James Baldwin.
He had a good year.
You had to clarify who it was, whether the pitcher or the writer.
Hey,
I mean, the writer's more famous.
Yeah, when you say James Baldwin, people think the writer. And unless you're a White Sox fan, you think about the slow-walking, off-the-mound pitcher.
But I guess I just want to bring this up because I've thrown it up before. But especially with Pedro saying, you know what, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again about Jerry Reinsdorf. This gets taken out of context and somehow it gets turned around over and over again, how people want to perceive it. Jerry's a winner, okay? He's an absolute winner. He's a competitor. No, he's not content. Who is? He's an incredible owner, an incredible man. I know how much he loves Chicago and he loves those fans. I brought these quotes up, but I was just trying to look at what fans and what Chicago was saying about Jerry in 1998 and 1997, and these were 2 that stuck out to me. These were both from Chicago Tribune, who had easy to find archives, but this is from one piece. So is it the man who helped bring 5 NBA titles to Chicago in 7 years and who was the impetus behind 2 new stadium projects in a city that hadn't constructed a sports arena since Soldier Field in 1994 is reviled in his adopted city? Reinsdorf's approval rating, if it were solicited, would be pretty near rock bottom these days. That was evidence after the Bulls clinched the NBA title on June 13th, and great many of the euphoric fans at the United Center stopped celebrating only long enough to boo Reinsdorf when he was introduced during the trophy presentation. And then this one was from a White Sox fan who has grown as a true White Sox lover because his dad thought there was a dividing line in the city where, you know, Cubs fans were on the north side and Sox fans were on the south side, and how this author was tempted by the 98 Cubs fan to kind of go against his father's idea of you should only go to Sox fans if you're a South Sider. This one's from 1998, but we're not for a dark and sinister force known as Jerry Reinsdorf. Right now, I'd probably be rooting for the Giants as vigorously as I did in the fall of 1984, it being an abomination to take New York side in anything, even after all of the Sox owners' various high crimes and misdemeanors. To recap, the baseball strike, Terry Bevington, the white flag trade, dismantling the Bulls, and global warming. A good start to the season might have overcome my animosity. But again, with 98 just devolving and getting worse, and Sammy Sosa hitting 1 million home runs, Kerry Wood striking out 20, this author felt finally tempted in that era to disobey the White Sox because of Jerry Reinsdorf. We talk about what his legacy will be. I think most White Sox fans think of Jerry Reinsdorf negatively, and while there is 2005, from 1981 to 2024, 2025 isn't going to be even any better. This is going to be a horrendous run as an owner for Jerry Reinsdorf outside of that 1 year in 2005. So,
I mean, I know he's going to go to his grave whenever he does as a proud owner that brought a championship to the Chicago White Sox that only other one owner other owner had done before that, and that's, of course, Charles Comiskey. So I think that he doesn't care about all this stuff. Pedro can call him a winner. He can act like he last year hurt him, but he's counting his money. He's going to go to his grave feeling like he accomplished a lot in life, which he did. All his accomplishments are great. And think about his life through his view, not through our view as fans. Think about his view. Grew up in Brooklyn, his whole strive and struggling, going to college, going to law school, becoming a lawyer, et cetera, becoming an independently wealthy, a billionaire. You think he cares that you at home think that he is a failure of an owner? No. He's like, my life went from here to there, and I am a winner. That's all he is. So if you're thinking about bringing pain or embarrassment to Jerry, it's not happening. He's not embarrassed. If he would have been embarrassed, he would have left in 98 when they're talking shit about him back then after the white flag trade. There's no embarrassment in that guy. And if I were him, I probably wouldn't have any embarrassment either, seeing where he came from. I'm just trying to go through his view, not through my view as Herb. I don't like the guy, but my opinion of him, I don't think he cares, and he shouldn't. So, yeah, I would say that Jerry Reinsdorf, when he does go to his grave, will be like, man, life well lived right there. And you ungrateful sons of bitches, I brought you a championship. Shut the hell up. No one else did. Tell that to Bill Veeck.
Well said, Herb. Anyways, let's get into tonight's game. Will the White Sox avoid their 21st straight loss in a row? We do have the White Sox lineup. Starting pitcher tonight will be Kai Busch, making his major league debut against the Oakland Athletics. Leading off for the White Sox, third baseman Miguel Vargas. Batting second, Lenyn Sosa, playing second base. Batting third, Luis Robert Jr. in center field. Batting fourth, Andrew Vaughn at first base. Batting fifth, Nick Senzel, who will be your designated hitter. Batting sixth, Andrew Benintendi in left field. Batting seventh, Brooks Baldwin at shortstop. Batting eighth, Corey Julks in right field. And batting ninth, Chucky Robinson will be catching Kai Busch in his major league debut. Kai Busch, kind of, I mean, does he deserve a runway? Like, is this going to be only in the moment? You know, we're calling him up because we need a starting pitcher, or now that Drew Thorpe is on the IL, is Kai Busch going to be the young gun that just takes over for him?
I guess it depends on how long Drew Thorpe's going to be out for, right? Because I think Drew Thorpe has shown enough consistency at times. Obviously, the last couple haven't gone great, but consistency for a decent stretch at least to keep getting thrown out there every fifth day. I don't think he's necessarily done enough, especially on this team, where this team is, to say, nah, go back down to the minors when you get healthy. We're done with you here. So I think he will return to the rotation, absolutely. I guess it's just a matter of, do you still need to see Chris Flexen every fifth day? You know, does Kai Busch come up in Drew Thorpe's stead and do well? That, to me, should earn him the ability to finish out the year in the starting rotation. But if he doesn't, if he comes up here and it's clear that he's not ready and he's just here to make a few spot starts for an injured guy, then he could very easily go right back to Charlotte. But with where this team is, with what the next month or 2 months are going to look like, absolutely the young guys should get as much opportunity as they can get if the White Sox see that they are ready for that challenge and the continuation of that challenge.
But reading Bob Nightingale's article where they're talking about Mike shutting down Garrett Crochet in September, this might be an opening for people like Kai Busch to get some extended play at the major league level there. So I would hope they wouldn't shut down Garrett Crochet if their plan is to have him pitch on a regular schedule and get the innings load up for next year so his arm could be right. If you're going to shut him down, I would already have shut him down right now. There's no reason it's September to shut him down instead of right now. So, Kai Busch, if he goes out and does his thing in Oakland tonight, which is a ballpark, you can go out and do your thing. But this lineup versus the A's, they've been on fire. This month of August, not as much, but the month in July, they were the best team in American League. And only 3 teams better than them in the National League with record-wise. So you're facing the best team right now since July 1st versus the worst team since July 1st, since ever, but also July 1st. They've only won 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, and two, Mark Kotsay, even though I think he's right near Pedro Grifol for worst manager of all time, he had a goal that was easy to take a bite out of. They're only 20 games under 500. Their goal was to be 500. Obviously, 20 games under 500, you missed the mark. But, it seemed a little bit more obtainable. And again, you look at Chris Getz and what his vision was for this team. It was a team that would play defense. Right now, you look at where they rank defensively. They're the worst team in baseball. And then you also see Pedro Grifol, and he set out this fast mentality, and it feels like the White Sox really even haven't been that aggressive on the baseball path. They really haven't been.
I don't know how aggressive.
Technically sound.
Well, they certainly haven't been They certainly have not been technically sound. But what did we say at the beginning of the year? It's hard to be aggressive on the base paths if you don't get on base.
True. Absolutely. We talk about their walk rate.
They don't walk. They don't hit.
And I mean, we even talk too. I mean, probably until we're blue in the face about how this team just cannot hit a cutoff man to save their life, and how this has been an issue in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Pedro Grifol has been under the helm for nearly 300 games, and they still can't hit a cutoff man.
And it's still making him mad, by the way, too. I mean,
does it?
That he shouts it out every time they do it in the post-game press conference. So again, I don't know why they won't listen to them, but they're not doing it. Hey, I got one for Antoine, by the way. Braggs, you want to flash Antoine's comment there? They put one mustache man on the IL only to call up his replacement, another mustache man, referring to Drew Thorpe and Kai Busch. Not only that, both those guys are from Utah.
Well, and unfortunately, the other mustache man, Tanner Banks, also from Utah.
And they had in the minor leagues this year Joe Barlow, also from Utah.
Yeah, I mean,
they had four. There was a chance that there could have been 4 Utah pitchers on this team at the same time.
And I think that Banks and Thorpe were the first Utah teammates.
I would imagine.
So now you would go from 2 to a quartet. I I mean, that's impressive.
Why stop at 2 and you can have 4?
They got a scout out there.
That sums up the season. Stop picking Utahns. Utahns?
Hey, the best trade they made might have been involving one of their Utahns.
Why are we blaming the Utahns? I don't think it's the Utahns'
Don't have multiple Utahns on your team.
Drew Thorpe's been fine.
Then you have the worst record in Major League Baseball.
I think you got to worry about some of the other states that these guys are from before you got to worry about the guys from Utah.
Watch out for Arkansas. I mean, they gave us Andrew Benintendi and tiny, mightiful Dominic Fletcher.
And also, I mean, a couple
Neither
of
those guys are actually from Arkansas, but they did go there.
Dallas Keuchel.
Who picked Suey?
Yeah. James McCann.
That was good.
Hagen Smith.
Good.
We don't even know. He's
Brett Bielema?
So far. He's not a White Sox. Anyways, Antoine, thanks you for the fun fact. Are you predicting a sweep here, Herb? You seem really down on the White Sox and very high on
I want to sweep
20 games under 500
because
Oakland A's.
That would be great for them to set the record or tie the record at 23 for the most consecutive losses in an MLB season. But I know the White Sox are going to disappoint me and win one of these games in Oakland. So, no, I don't think it's going to happen. I think if any of the games they're going to win, it's going to be tonight's game with the rookie pitching versus this Oakland Athletics team. Even though Brent Rooker crushes, and I got this from our guy Cody Delmendo, crushes left-handers. And right now, in his last third game, is slugging 700. Slugging 700.
I think he's driven in 81 runs, which is more than the White Sox this entire year. I mean, why Kai Busch in this moment, though? Not Jonathan Cannon, who's a little bit better of a starter pitcher.
He is, but I think that they don't have a book on him. There's nothing out there for the A's to look at. Okay, this Kai Busch, he brings this, that, and the other. They already know what Jonathan Cannon brings. There's tape on him, Major League tape on him in Major League ballparks, and he's going to be good. He's been pretty solid in his rookie year, but I think if any game, this game tonight will be the White Sox chance to grab a W.
And then Kevin's just asking, so we'll just run down the probable pitchers. Jonathan Cannon will be starting for the White Sox on Wednesday as Drew Thorpe makes his, or Jonathan Cannon will be starting on Tuesday as Drew Thorpe will be making his start today. You have Busch versus Sears tonight. You have Cannon versus Stripling tomorrow, and then Dart Martin versus Estes on Wednesday.
Sean Estes?
Joey Estes.
Literally,
I knew someone was going to bring up the
like Sean Estes still pitching.
He's back.
I wouldn't doubt it. Rubber arm lefty.
I would. I mean, he's like probably at least 50.
Rubber arm lefty,
at
man.
his age. I think you guys have a shot.
Former Cubs, great.
Over under 50 for Sean Estes' age.
I think he's over.
51.
Yeah.
Boom.
Congrats. I mean, it wasn't even that easy of a question. I mean, like, I thought I should have done 50 and a half maybe.
He was on the 03 Cubs, and that was 21 years ago.
Yes, he was. All right. I do want to just share this. Since we were talking about all-time records for people, Jerry Reinsdorf took over the team in 1981. And since 1981, the White Sox are 3,401, to 3,450. So that is a win-loss record of 496, a little bit under 500 overall, and I think that's 14th. So really just middle of the pack with the Milwaukee Brewers. Your old foe, your old nemesis.
Yeah.
I wasn't even around for the Brewers and White Sox battle over the AL West.
Man, we hated some Phil Gardner. Scrap
Iron.
I know who that is.
Oh, I just hated Phil Gardner.
What do you mean you don't know who that is?
the
He was the
Astros.
manager of the Astros when the White Sox beat them in the World Series.
Oh, Hawk absolutely detested Scrap Iron.
What? That was the Astros manager in 2005?
Yes, it was.
You could have gave me 50 chances, and I would not have pulled that out.
Another mustachioed man.
Yes.
I did not know who managed the Oakland or the Houston Astros in 2005.
Like how the Cubs hate the Brewers is kind of how the Sox hated the Brewers back in the day. Now we're like, who cares? The Brewers.
It's just the Brewers. All right, well, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. We have a show tomorrow at the same time, 5:30, to preview tomorrow's game and to also recap tonight's game. And we will have some Discord content. If you do want to become a diehard and jump into our Discord, head over to allchgo.com/diehard. You could chat with us. I'll likely be in that Discord tonight, chatting through the 21st loss in a row. Herb will be as well. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you're new here. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. Thank you to Greg Braggs for producing the show. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
I was going to say.
We all silly like the mayor.